What if I told you that I can hit any Fortune 50 company with a deep fake of their C-suite by using only 3 seconds of audio? Hi, I'm Dr. Pablo Breuer. I'm a 22-year veteran of the United States Navy, where I specialized in information and cyber warfare. My final tour in the Navy was as the Innovation Officer for U.S. Special Operations Command, where I was asked to take a look at problems that represented an asymmetric threat to the nation. In 2017, that was disinformation and deepfakes. So after inviting in subject matter experts from across the world, we realized that this was a severe problem that nobody was addressing. And so I set about with a couple of friends and colleagues to make a framework that would help people and organizations deal with dis and misinformation. That is called the Disarm Framework, and it has now been adopted by the US government, the EU government, and NATO as the standard for how they deal with foreign information manipulation. So the question is, what is cyber disinformation? Why is it important to business today? The World Economic Forum recently let out their threat report, and they stated that across sectors, whether it's public, private, academia, governmental, mis and disinformation is either the number one or the number two threat across all sectors in the next 3 to 5 years. Unlike cyber, we don't have tools in place yet across industries to really be able to deal with this issue. We don't have as many frameworks out there to tell us how we should behave, how we should monitor. And so all of these things will affect your bottom line. They will affect your stock price. They will affect how consumers and regulators view your industry and your individual companies. Why should industries be concerned about cyber and disinformation threats? I think the cyber question is self-evident. We've all seen the rise in ransomware. We've all seen the rise in intellectual property theft. We've all seen how these things negatively affect not just the way that consumers view us and regulators view us, but also our stock prices. What remains is disinformation. And I will try to tie that very simply. If I claim that there is a cyber attack on your company and there is not, you're now trying to prove a negative. However, the market will still react as if there were a cyber incident. And it can certainly go beyond that. There are disinformation narratives, again, across sectors. Imagine that you are a baby food manufacturer, and I put out that there is a case of listeria. It costs the consumer nothing to stop using your product and go to your competitor's product, and it costs you a lot. And you can look across sectors. You can look at things like pesticides. You can look at things like consumer safety. You can look at things like worker relations, and you can certainly see where disinformation narratives could be used, and they'd be very difficult things for you to deal with as a company. So now that I've scared you, you may be asking yourself, what can we do? And what I will introduce to you in your session is I will do a brief introduction to something called the Disarm Framework, the Disinformation Analysis and Response Measures Framework that will show you how to proactively protect yourself from disinformation narratives before they hit, how you can plant good information in information deserts so that disinformation narratives can't stick. And then on the off chance that a disinformation narrative does go out, how to react quickly to inform the audience of what the real information is to minimize the damage. Now, what I will do can't prevent all attacks in the same way that the fire marshal can't prevent your building from catching fire. But I can show you the strategies and tactics that you can use to make yourself more resilient and more resistant to those attacks when they do come. So as we look at to the next 3 to 5 years, what does this landscape really look like? I think right now we're just starting to see the power of things like large language models. We're starting to figure out what they're really good for and what they're not so good for. And we're starting to ask questions about how they may be dangerous. We're also starting to see AI has been used in places like Hollywood to create fantastic cinematic wonders. Well, what happens when that technology gets democratized? And what could be done by Hollywood studios can now be done by somebody on their cell phone. What does the world look like when we can no longer believe what our eyes see and what our ears hear? And how do we prepare our institutions and our companies to live in that world? So after this session, how are you going to be different? You're going to understand what the world of disinformation and misinformation mean to you, your company, your family, and your safety. You're going to know how to proactively look for signs of disinformation attacks. You're going to learn how to protect yourself proactively from those disinformation attacks. And you're going to learn how to build a plan to react to disinformation incidents that will protect both you and your institutions. Hi, I'm Pablo Breuer. Welcome to the OpenExO Exponential Executive Program. I look forward to seeing you all there.